as we are in game number 3. Both these players 3-0 here.
Dan Musser fresh off of a Grand Prix top 4.
Grand Prix Atlanta. A great run for him. He was our last undefeated player at that tournament. So he'll be headed back to the Pro Tour. One of Ohio's finest Magic players is Dan Musser as he's tapping a Caracas here. Sensei's Divining Top. Here's a counter spell on the top.
I love watching Reid play this deck for a variety of reasons. Top of the list here is he's got all these Ice Age cards, which I'm sure are cards he owned when he was a child.
Yeah. Red Elemental Blast going to take care of counterspell. Top is in there as Duke will draw. Reid going to play an island maybe before the Jace, yeah.
Make sure he has Red Blast here.
Musser will sacrifice his Scalding Tarn very quickly. We're going to see him go for a Spell Pierce off of a basic island.
Sensei's Divining Top is, of course, very important for this deck and extremely good in the mirror, but I would rather have Jace than Divining Top. If Reid can force this through, he's got an edge on the board.
Well, now Jace is in, and this is bad news. Reid's going to likely be brainstorming. Yep. And now we're going to head back to Musser. Here's a counterbalance. Now, it's interesting because in some phases of this matchup, counterbalance is the most important card, and other times it's Jace. It feels like right now Jace is probably the more important of the two.
Well, counterbalance plus top in play does do a lot to mitigate what Jace can do. So it's important for Reid to be able to fight over this, and he was able to force back.
Yeah. Reid's going to draw his card for the turn and immediately brainstorm again with Jace. He just wants to get it all set up before he maybe starts going to the Fate Seal territory.
Not only that, but he's acting very, very fast. Time is always a concern with this deck, and a lot of the best control players I've talked to, Patrick Chapin at the top of the list, and many others, have talked about you had to be willing to give up some percentage points of, abstract quality of play to be able to finish the rounds in time. And Reid, you saw, he took his turn, drew a card, and immediately brainstormed. Didn't fish it with his hand. Nothing. He knew what he was doing before he even got to his draw step.
Counterbalance comes down as well here for Duke. You have to imagine the top of his deck is situated in a way that he is happy with. Now, you saw the draw here for Musser. It was a copy of Cavernous Souls. Now, Dan's build of this deck is a little bit more creature heavy, kind of, I'd say, pulling from the Joe Lissette school of thought a little bit, as he has Snapcaster Mage, Vendilion Click, and Venser Shaper Savant to go along with his Cavernous Souls. For Reid, he's just got one Snapcaster Mage. He's never been a big fan of a lot of creatures in this deck. Red Elemental Blast going to take care of counterbalance. Musser going to play Cavernous Souls. Likely going to be naming Wizards, but we will get confirmation, and he will go with Wizard. So that's actually a way he can break out of this.
Yes. It won't be counterable. Get the Jace back into Reid's hand, and then maybe counter back on the way down. Although, Reid's has looked at a lot of cards at this point. But still, the Venser in play, taxing Jace is also valuable. If Musser can find a 5th land, he can play the Venser and leave Caracas up, which is a really good setup. So there's some paths here for Musser. A 5th land would be very nice.
Couple cards going to go back from the brainstorm. Duke going to pass the turn back with all of his mana available. Musser will spin the top on the end step. Oh, Gideon Jura in there.
Yep.
Don't see that one all that often. Dan does have the Venser in hand.
Yes. He'd really like to play land number 5, so he can do it with Caracas backup. The problem is that the longer he waits for land number 5, the more brainstorming Duke gets to do uncontested.
It's another attempt at counterbalance here. Brainstorming response by Reid. He reveals Snapcaster Mage, that's down. And now here's Vendilion Click, and this is the real beater here.
Yeah, Vendilion Click is very bad news for Musser. I assume, unless Duke's hand is composed very specifically, that he's going to go ahead and take the Venser out of the hand, and then Reid has Jace just uncontested.
Source of Plowshares is going to take care of Vendilion Click with the trigger on the stack. And yep, Reid is going to target Dan here. You see 2 Jaces and then a Venser, and I wouldn't be surprised if Venser's going to bite the dust as Reid wants to confirm exactly what Cavern is naming, and it is naming Wizard. So away goes Venser. Mystery card coming here for Dan. Not that big of a mystery. He knows what's on top of his deck from the top. Jace is going to brainstorm right away again here for Reid.
And working with the information with Vendilion Click is so valuable now because Reid can try to manage the Jace in such a way to always leave a 4 on top. That locks out Musser's hand. It's going really poorly here for Dan.
Sensei is divining top here for Reid. Now he's got top plus counterbalance and an active Jace. Now for Musser, your Venture's on the bottom of your deck, so you might be prioritizing a fetch land very highly here.
I mean, the route that Musser, I suppose, can try to take is sneaking in the Snapcaster Mage and try to, you know, force some action from Reid that hand as he can make the Snapcaster uncounterable. But the problem with these lines of play here for Musser is he's just going to end up losing a lot of value to the counterbalance.
Yep.
Reid can answer certainly the 1 casting cost spells, those are free for him to answer.
Well, Reid's going to draw a card with Sensei's Divining Top in response to the Ponder. And Musser says, well, while top is tapped, I'll play Snapcaster Mage, it's uncounterable, and I'd like to flashback this Red Elemental Blast and actually go after counterbalance and not Jace. That's notable.
Well, if he gets the counterbalance off the table, then he can resolve his own Jace. And then if the Snapcaster's in play, the Snapcaster can tax the Jace. So this is kind of a long shot here from Musser, but he's so far behind in this game that I don't mind trying to go for broke.
Well, there's a counter spell in the Red Elemental Blast. Now top's going to go on top of the deck. It'll counter the Ponder. Snapcaster Mage is in because it can't be countered. And it looks like that's going to be it for Musser on this turn as Red Blast is exiled thanks to Snapcaster Mage. Back to Duke we go.
And remember, Reid's working with very good information about what's in Musser's hand.
Yep. Saw it from Vendilion Click. Very quick brainstorm with the Jace. Arid Mesa's the land. Sensei's Divining Top is the play. Going to reestablish the soft lock of top plus counterbalance and then an active Jace going. Musser's going to spin top on his upkeep. He'll draw a card. Going to knock Jace down to 1. And just pass the turn back, will Dan. Even though things look very bad for Musser in this spot, given how powerful Cavern of Souls can be in the matchup, it's not all doom and gloom.
No, it's not, although I think that we're hitting the point here where Musser just won't have enough resources to work with.
Yeah.
I think Reid might be approaching the point here where he's going to pivot and start Fate Sealing. I think the board has become that stable.
Upkeep at the top activation. He's going to sacrifice Arid Mesa. You saw a lot of action there from Reid on the end step. Snapcaster Mage, casting a Brainstorm, putting a couple cards back on top. Going to spin his top here, sacrifice a fetch land, get a Volcanic Island out of the deck. That's another red source for him for those Red Elemental Blasts and all those effects. And now he'll just draw a card for the turn and now Brainstorm. You can see just how experienced he is with the deck, playing very fluidly and playing very quickly.
Yep, and a full grip of cards in hand. Counterbalance plus Divine Top plus Jace, more mana in play. Ahead on every axis. At this point, it's just an issue of either can Reid finish the match in time, or does Reid find some weird mixture of wizards to be able to sneak through the cavern and get something going.
Musser very quickly spins the top on the end step. He'll draw a card. Fetch line's actually pretty important here for Dan.
Yep.
Snapcaster Mages will trade. And that's a Flooded Strand. 4 mana. It's a Tempted Jace. It's the kind of card that can help Musser maybe get back into the game. And it's something that certainly demands an answer here from Duke.
I mean, I think Reid is sitting on a Pyroblast in hand, and
there's one on top of the deck,
he's got answers to this. It's just an issue of can he find a 4 for free?
There's Pyroblast. Let's see what the follow-up is here for Duke. There's a clock there in Vendilion Click. Reid will target Musser here. Brainstorm and Jace. Reid says you can keep those.
Pretty bad sign here if your opponent just lets you keep a Jace.
And Reid just put a Force of Will on top of the deck as well.
I can't imagine Reid cares about anything at this point other than cards that can't be countered via Cavern of Souls.
Vendilion Click going to come in. You see a little bit of shortcutting there. It was the top activation. Take a look at the top 3. Put those 3 cards back. Activate the Brainstorm from Jace. Draw a couple cards. Put them back. Attack with Vendilion Click. Play a fetch land. Pass it back. Almost hard to keep up with him at times. But he's so experienced with this deck. And especially when playing in the mirror, you got to play fast.
Yeah.
You do not want to get draws. So, as you said a little bit earlier, some players in this type of matchup, you know, you could think everything through, think of all the permutations, but that'll lead to draws. Here's a Gideon.
And really, clock management, in my opinion, is the thing that separates good counterbalance players from great counterbalance players the most. Is understanding when maybe you stop activating the top at a certain point, because just finish the game in time is all that matters.
Reid going to spin the top. Now he's going to brainstorm. That's why you see that shortcut action there. Jace going to stay just at 1. 2 cards will go back. Vendilion Click's going to come in. Musser's going to fall down to 12. Musser always does have that option to Caracas that Vendilion Click, though. It's not one that I think he likes.
I mean, that buys a little bit of time, I suppose, but that's about a concession to me once you're in that stage, because there's no way Musser will ever resolve anything relevant.
Here's Jace. Reid going to spin with the top, sacrifice of fetch land, didn't like what he saw. Again, trying to maybe find a 4 for counterbalance.
Yeah, if he happens to find a Jace in the top 3, that's better than using a counter spell.
He'll spin again. Sack again. There is the chance that he's without answers. It's fairly minor, given how many cards he's seen in this game, but there is the chance. One thing that Musser has done is he's kept presenting threats that Reid must deal with.
Yes.
Duke going to take a look. Now brainstorm.
And he has a Jace left over in hand.
Yep. Remember,
So,
this is all with counterbalance on the stack.
Yeah.
Now there goes Jace.
Yeah. Reid there was just, if he could get it for free without having used the brainstorm, might as well. But that Jace was never a big threat.
Spin the top on the end step. Now he'll untap. He'll draw a card. Council's Judgment to draw. Here comes Vendilion Click. Musser down to 9. Reid will activate Jace and draw 3. He'll be putting 2 back here in just a second. There's a Scalding Tarn. Another fetch land's always nice when you have top out there. And now Council's Judgment.
And what's nice about this here is that if Musser allows this to resolve, there goes the Divining Top. If Musser puts the top back on top of the deck, it's then locked out by counterbalance plus Divining Top the next turn.
This is no accident.
Yeah.
Musser will draw a card. I wouldn't be surprised to see him fetch here, too. Yep. All right, he's going to untap first.
He can still do it in his upkeep if he wants to.
He's going to draw the top. Maybe a little bit of surprise there.
I mean, I think he's trying to get one of his ones to resolve. Unfortunately, he has to do it sorcery first, then instant.
Yep. He led with instant first.
Right, and now there's a 1 on top. He can't cast the Divining Top.
Well, he might be trying to push something through. Oh, no, he's just going to let him. This is in the draw step. Okay.
Sure.
This is a way to maybe try to catch the top. And it is an uncounterable Vendilion Click.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an uphill climb to say the least here for Musser, but he is really giving it his best shot.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is that Musser is just expending a lot of resources to make very little inroads in terms of Reid's overall position.
Because you can see Reid's hand right now.
This is probably the best thing that Musser can do given the circumstances.
The grip here for Reid, Sensei's Divining Top, Brainstorm, Force of Will, Counterbalance ×2, a Pyroblast and a Jace, and now he's going to add a mystery card to that because top's in place to the bottom. Here's a Brainstorm. And you would expect Reid to have this good of a hand because he's been activating Jace every turn.
Right.
So that's no surprise whatsoever. Arid Mace of the Land, Source of Plowshares appears to be the spell. Musser going to Caracas. In response, Reid going to Pyroblast. But there goes Vendilion Click. Reid's Click will come in for 3. Musser going to fall down to 6. And at this point now, I'm not even sure if Venser's going to get him out of it. Musser drawing real thin. But it continues to play on. Snapcaster Mage, I believe, may have been the draw here. Note that Reid did not, well, I guess the top got taken by the Vendilion Click, so never mind. Was going to say he didn't redeploy it, but he couldn't. He lost it. Here's a top from Musser. Reid going to sacrifice Arid Mesa. There's a Tundra. And now here's a Brainstorm. Reid has found a top. He'll put a couple cards back. And Counterbalance, revealing Sensei's Divining Top will take care of Musser's top. Now Musser looking through the graveyard. You see him bring Snapcaster Mage right to the top of his graveyard. Vendilion Click Ooh, I think, yep, after the draw step. And both these players really good at sequencing. I thought he may have done that in the upkeep when top was on top of the deck, but it's in the draw step after Reid has drawn the top. So now Swords is going to take care of the Vendilion Clique. Musser might be able to work his way into a draw here.
Yeah. I think that if Reid, I don't know if going the Fate Seal route is a realistic way to win at this point, but instead of trying to bang his head against Caracas with the Vendilion Cliques or what have you, that might be the route here.
Reid got to sacrifice the fetch line very quickly. Now he'll spin. Flusterstorm among those cards. I don't want to say Reid's running out of win conditions or anything, but Dan is putting up a pretty decent fight.
Yeah. Given the circumstances, I think Dan's done a nice job to keep the game competitive.
And this is, I would say, solely based off of Cavern of Souls.
Yeah.
Now Reid's going to activate Sensitive on top, then draw a card. So the draw resolves first, and now the spin resolves. Now here's Predict.
Gas.
You got what you wanted. He knew an island was up there, so he gets to draw 2 cards from the Predict. Now here's top. Now he gets to spin. Is he even doing anything? It's unclear.
Well,
he's seeing a lot of cards.
It's incredible right now the speed with which Reid is playing, given how complicated these permutations are. And, you know, Reid knows the enemy right now is the clock.
Yep.
So it's not really what's going on Musser's side.
You also saw Reid Fate Seal himself. Now he's going to Brainstorm when he has access to all of his mana. So Jace went up to 3, back down to 1. Snapcaster Mage got a hit in there. You saw Predict an island. That's why Reid was able to draw 2. Now he's going to sacrifice this fetch land.
Are there any copies of Entreat left in Reid's deck? I mean, that card also ends the game on the spot.
You have to imagine that's what he's searching for, right? That's why you see so much active shuffling. Just a bunch of lands here for Reid. There's Council's Judgment. There goes Snapcaster Mage. Musser going to sacrifice the Scalding Tarn. We're under 3 minutes here. Get a basic island. They're both playing quickly. Both very, very experienced with miracles. That's why it's likely we'll see this match come to a conclusion. No cut. Arid Mesa here for Musser. Pass the turn back. Reid will quickly draw. Now he's going to spin. There's Entreat. Took him long enough. Now he just has to make sure he just sets it up the way that he wants it. Fate Seal you, Dan Musser. Leave that card on top. There's a Flooded Strand for Reid. He'll pass the turn back. Musser will draw that card. Musser wants to deploy Counterbalance. I think Reid's going to let him.
I like Duke there, leave on top. Musser knows the fetch land gambit, says I'm just going to take my draw.
Yep. There's Entreat the Angels finally. The question is just how much does Reid want to do it for? It doesn't have to do it for a ton given that Musser's at 5. Counterbalance, going to reveal Cavern of Souls, and that's going to do it. Reid Duke is going to win this match over Dan Musser. 2-1. The Miracle's Mirror goes to the Duke. He's off to 4-0 here, and boy, did he play that game fast.